Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation, along with my on a mission, burning ever brighter, wifey, Jessica Lee. If you've ever wanted to feel stronger, more focused, more on path and on fire, and with the highest vibration possible, then do we have the vibration raising show for you. Today we'll talk about charging your soul, plugging back in, raising your consciousness to an entirely new level, and how to juggle real world priorities and presence on a daily basis. That plus we'll talk about joining gyms, waking at 3 a.m., mountain biking forests, butterflies and stingrays, rescuing crabs, conscious conception, things that make you go boom, and why having to spoon feed your Lumi may be the greatest gift in the world. So welcome back to the show, Jessica. Are you ready to shine?
I've got a love bug in my lap, so I am very ready.
Woo! So before we dive right into things, what's the mission you've been on now, and how is it changing everything?
First, I should explain that love bug is a kitten for those of you who are tuning in for the first time.
Thank you for that clarification. So going from there, now what's the mission you're on and how is it changing things?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned conscious conception and things that make you go boom, one right after the other.
What's the tie-in you're seeing?
Well, I think you're referring to the conscious conception.
No, but actually, I guess that's like a big bang. It sure to make sense. Life before life, things of this sort. I was talking about the fact that we live near Camp Lejeune Marine Base, and this morning things were going boom, boom, boom as they were playing their games down on base.
Oh, okay. That kind of boom.
So one more time, what's the project you're on and how is it getting you up? Why is it flipping everything on its head and you're even so supercharged, you're literally getting up at 3 in the morning?
Yeah, so, well, it ties in with conscious conception. And right now, my main focus is to get my vibration as high as I possibly can so that when it comes to conceiving our baby, which I hope to do in the near future, I am passing on the highest quality energy and whatever mojo I can.
And for those who haven't heard the show before or haven't heard you and I speak, what is the Conscious Conception Project? Because I'm trying to get it, why. It's not just for baby's sake, but this project is bigger than baby, if we can even say that.
Well, yeah, it's not just for our baby. So right now I'm studying, I'm researching. We're going to be interviewing experts on the different aspects that come together to consciously conceive. And then I'm going to share what I'm learning so that other parents can be more conscious, more aware, more mindful of the fact that when you're conceiving a baby, that baby is sentient, is conscious. It's recording everything that's happening. It's experiencing your thoughts and your emotions. So what's happening to you is also happening to your baby. You're kind of like the mother is anyway, the second body, the outer body to the baby, which is developing its own body. And I don't think most parents realize this, just how much those early days and months affect the baby. And I know in the show we talk a lot about, you have on a lot of guests who talk about rewiring the brain and rewiring the subconscious programming that was programmed during early childhood. And a lot of it has kept people stuck because they're not always positive programming. Well, that same kind of program is happening before we're even born, while we're in the womb. And so I want to wake people up, wake parents to be up to this.
I like that. And you're going to have, for those parents who didn't catch it early enough, you're going to have tips and tools to help them, to help their child as well.
Yes. You mean if they're beyond the
Conception stage.
pregnancy?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm focused on the conception part because that's where we're going to be shortly. So eventually, when we're past the conception, then we'll be interviewing people on like conscious and mindful pregnancy. So the whole point is to give our babies a head start, so that they don't have to spend a decade or 2 or 3 trying to figure out what those subconscious blocks or emotional blocks are, or whatever mysterious wounds are that we end up trying to fix as adults.
I like it. In a sense, they won't need our coaching services.
Yeah, ideally. And the other part of it is, so often our spiritual guests talk about how we forget where we came from, we forget who we are, we forget that we're always connected to divine source. I want our babies to not have to remember. I want them to not forget in the first place. Does that make sense? Because they come in remembering, and then through conditioning, they're taught that they're separate, that they're no longer connected. And so I want to talk to you. People who've been there, who've done it, who've been able to help their children maintain that connection, so that as they're growing up, they know who they are, they know why they're here, they know what their mission is, and they don't spend, again, years of their life trying to figure out what their life purpose is.
And you'd say if we can get a generation of kids like that, that would change everything.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many generations it'll take for the entire world of babies to be born like this. But that's the ultimate goal. And when you remember your connection, where you came from, who you are, then you remember what's known as your Buddha nature. And your Buddha nature is naturally compassionate, it's generous, it's loving, it's open-hearted.
The open-hearted warrior from day one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't even know if I want to use the warrior.
I knew you'd go there. I knew it.
Because it should be effortless at that point. For us as adults, it becomes like a warrior-like thing because it's a struggle to get past those emotional blocks that cause fear. And so it feels like it's a courageous act for us.
So what have you been researching, reading about? What's been kind of the coolest stuff at the moment?
Well, a few years ago, I read a book called Spirit Babies, which I love. I want to reread it again. And that really opened my eyes to the concept. It's not really, the concept implies that it may not be real, but I believe it is, which is the author, and other people are able to do this. He's able to see spirit babies before they are conceived. So he says often spirit babies will hang out around their parents, the parents that they've chosen.
If I pause you there, by spirit babies, you mean, in a sense, the spirit of the child that you're going to conceive that'll be someday in your womb?
Yes. Yeah.
Or in your wife's womb.
Exactly. And oftentimes they'll hang out in the bedrooms of where they expect to be conceived. So it's like they position themselves
getting ready
for the opportunity to like jump into the wormhole or whatever. I don't know. And in other books, I'm reading about children, like toddlers, recalling their memories from before they were conceived. And so they'll be able to tell their parents what they were doing, um, like who they were spending time with. And they're not even in the womb yet. And of course, there are toddlers that recall being in their mother's womb. And they'll be able to like recollect memories that their parents never told them about.
Very cool. And today, this kind of supersedes things. You were doing a pre-interview with somebody, and you happen to bring out. We can just allude to it now about birthing stories, and you were talking about tongs.
Yeah. So today we were talking to Rebecca Thompson Hitt, who's the founder of ConsciouslyParenting.com, and she was talking about how she's helped parents and children heal relationships and heal trauma from the birthing process. She calls it healing stories, and how you are birthed actually leaves an imprint on you. And so if you have a C-section, that has a certain kind of imprint on you, and it'll show up in different areas of your life. She used a lot of stories to illustrate how this plays out. And so I asked, well, what kind of, like generally speaking, what kind of imprint would getting pulled out using forceps have on a baby? And I pointed at Michael.
Thank you.
Would you like to explain?
No, you go for it.
Well, I wasn't there, so.
I don't know my whole birthing story. All I know is that there were forceps involved. Apparently, I looked like a cone head when I came out. The doctor told my mom that would the swelling would go down the following day because I used so much force it actually changes the shape of the skull. And she said that my birth story of not being able to go through to completion, to be able to get out of the womb on my own, in a sense, probably had an effect on my projects later on. And the example that she used, she said it would affect transitions. And it's true. I tend to be slower in transitions and slower in leaving the house, checking the oven twice, making sure I've got everything ready to go. And she said that is because of my birth story. And so all of the quirks that we all have in life often go all the way back to our birth and before, with stored memories or imprints or patterns that are I don't know if it's epigenetic. That was another topic that we had. Those patterns get instilled on us. And so I repeat, I guess, my forceps birthing every time I try to give birth to a project or try to give birth to stepping through a doorway, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so what she does with parents is, and especially young children, is she helps those children complete the birthing process. So they reenact the birthing process, actually, and the children get to complete the process in the natural time and rhythm that they would have liked to in the first place. Because there's a natural rhythm that is supposed to take place when you're giving birth, and the baby and the mother's body, they're the ones that are supposed to control the timing. Whereas if you end up in giving birth in a hospital and there's a doctor who has another patient to get to or surgery or whatever, they're looking at the clock and they have their own timeline that they're trying to follow, which doesn't allow for the natural timeline to move along as it should.
I'm fascinated, and two things that are fascinating. First off, and we're really going off topic, but it's fun.
I know this is like the Inspire Nation Babies podcast that we're going to launch next year.
Yeah. So part number one is I do a lot of work with people on emotional traumas and things that are stuck inside of people that cause them to create self-sabotage or cause them to struggle to be able to overcome hurdles or to achieve whatever they're looking for, happiness, success, whatever it is. And so understanding the birth story, I don't understand it fully enough, but I know that can come into play even or maybe especially with adults to be able to heal those emotional traumas and wounds as well. So I'm real excited about that piece of it. The other piece of it was I haven't dove into the reading, the literature the way you have yet, and I will be for that program. But if I understand correctly, one of the cool things is the baby releases a chemical or a pheromone or something that actually signals the mom, it's time, I'm ready to come out now. I had no idea in the past that it's actually the baby that in a sense chooses, if it's not a C-section, when to come into this world.
That's right. Yeah. And sometimes they're super excited, so they come super early. And sometimes they're a little hesitant because there's some intrepidation, so they hang out in the womb for an extra couple weeks or something.
Yeah. So, okay, let's go from there and let's start talking about raising your vibration, which is kind of the general theme for today. And in this case, we're raising the vibration of humanity by getting them at the time of conception and even before. But can you tell us, I'm going to take us on a huge tangent here, how your gratitude journal has been morphing, because you've been doing a lot of things to raise your energy up. And in fact, usually you're a little nervous before the show, and we had a whole series of events happen before the show today, which would make us want to call it quits for today. And you were like a rock. You were hanging in there no matter what. What have you been doing?
Okay, so, and the reason why I was hanging in there like a rock is because I just knew that this show was supposed to happen. And that knowing in me is growing stronger and stronger. And it's as if like I've been given the green light and it's go time. Because if you haven't been listening, I was not well for a couple years. I was sick with a mole toxicity syndrome. You can listen to past shows if you want to find out about that. Don't really want to talk about that too much anymore, except that the most debilitating thing about it was chronic fatigue. I was sleeping the majority of the day. And a year of my life kind of went by like that. It's kind of a blur. And now I'm 100% better. It took me a while to get past some of the emotional blocks I had from that period. And a bunch of other emotional blocks keeping me small. And you know, in a way, I'm still coming out of my cocoon. I'm still blossoming, if you will. But I've gotten signs from different guests that you've had on the show. Kim Russo came on the show, and she channeled some of my guides, and they were pretty adamant about me to get out from behind stage. You've always been the face of the business, the face of this show, and it's time for me to stop hiding and to stop making excuses. And so it was kind of like a butt kicking. And I was like, okay, well, that's a clear message, because I've been kind of waiting for the go ahead, and maybe I had known for a couple weeks or maybe months, and I was still dragging my feet. because it's kind of scary for me to put myself out there. Anyway, going back to your question, we've been witnessing a lot of miracles in our lives, and I decided that instead of just writing down things that I'm grateful for, I'm writing down or recording all of the miracles that I see in our lives. And by writing those down, I'm one, well, I'm feeling gratitude as I'm writing them down. Like recognizing them as a miracle automatically makes me feel gratitude for that event. Two, by taking note of it and actually writing them down, I'm calling more miracles into my life. I'm saying, I witnessed this and I want to see more. So my gratitude journal has become my miracle journal.
What have been a few recent miracles, if you don't mind sharing?
Okay. Most recently, so I've been doing a lot of automatic writing. I've been doing it on a regular basis now. That's part of one of the things I'm doing to raise my vibration too, is because when I'm doing my automatic writing, I'm connecting to my guides who are at a high vibration. Everybody's guides are at a higher vibration. It's probably like part of the definition or a prerequisite to be a spirit guide. And when I'm connecting with them, I'm welcoming in their energy field, and I'm and just being in that energy field, you naturally attune to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the beginning of last week, my guides were telling me, and they were being very repetitive, which means they were really trying to drive this point home. They were saying, now is the time, now is the time, now is the time. Meaning everything has come together, everything that you've been waiting for. Because I've been waiting to have a baby for many years now. Back in 2013 is when we first started talking about starting a family. And right before your near-death accident that year, we were walking along a trail, and you called me back to you and said, Jesse, come back here. And I'm like, what? And you gave me this big hug, and you said, I can't wait to start a family with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was so excited because that was like the first time you ever said that.
Followed a minute later.
And then came the the 4-year pause button. You getting injured, and then a whole bunch of other challenging things that we got to learn from, and then me getting sick. And so it's been a long time coming. And I've known since back then that I wanted to do something related to conscious birthing. I even thought of book titles back then for the book that I would write, even though I didn't have the content yet. So I feel like this has been part of my life's mission for, well, ever since I was born, but I've known it for a few years now. And there were definitely a lot of sad moments during those years because I was like, well, when? Like, I feel like my life's on hold. Like, I can't step into my true power. I can't. There were just like a lot of thoughts of I can't yet. I can't. And so it just felt like I was always like on deck waiting when, and then it was like, is it ever going to happen? Maybe I was wrong. Maybe that wasn't my calling at all, and I've been waiting for nothing, and then what? And anyway, they were coming through loud and clear and saying, now is the time. And it makes sense because I wasn't ready back then. We weren't ready. We
Yeah.
had a lot of issues to work through, a lot of challenges between you and me, and emotional stuff that we don't want to pass on to our children. Not that we're like completely healed of every single wound, but you know,
We keep finding them. We keep ferreting them out or experiencing life and going, oh, wait a second, there's another trigger.
we have at least a few more months to become perfect, in quotes, perfect parents.
Oh my gosh. No pressure, right?
um, yeah, so they also said that um, because this is my life's mission, and um, and this project isn't just my project. They're working on this project too. We're a team. That everything that I require to support this project will be given to me. So I need to ask. And whatever I ask, I will manifest. Of course, when I ask for things, I should remember. I don't always remember, but I should remember to say, or something better, because I may not know what's best for me. And so the other morning, I was still adjusting to my new 3 a.m. wake up time, and I hadn't slept well, so I was pretty groggy and out of it. But I stumbled my way onto the beach with you, and I probably walked like a few hundred feet. I'm like,
No, you made it. You made it down by the two sets of stairs. That's
a
at
quarter
least.
mile.
No, I'm going to give it at least a half a mile.
Okay, thank you. And I'm like, okay, Michael, you go on. I'm too exhausted. I'm just gonna like hang out here and admire all the pretty seashells and see if I can find something cool. And then, so I'm standing there in a few inches of water, and I decide, well, let's test this new manifestation power. And I'm just playing around, and I thought, okay, I want to manifest a butterfly landing on my hand. And of course, the next thought is that's highly unlikely. That's not going to happen. What butterfly goes flying across the beach or like near the ocean? You never see that. So I don't know why I'm even doing this, but for kicks, let's try it out. So I close my eyes. I'm staying there with my hand, my open hand, waiting for a butterfly to land. And I wait a few moments. I don't feel anything land on my hand, but I'm like, well, let's open our. I'm gonna say our whatever my eyes now, and see that there's no butterfly. So I open my eyes, and of course my hand is empty. And then my eyes dart right past my hand, and in the water is a baby stingray flapping its wings. It was about 7 or 8 inches wide, and its tail was about a foot and a half long. And it was just hovering in the water, looking up at me. It was the cutest thing. But I had manifested an underwater butterfly. Without saying, or something better, the universe gave me the or something better.
Upgrade.
And she was the coolest thing. Eventually, you turn around and you're way off in the distance, and I'm like frantically motioning for you to hurry up and come over.
Which I did not see.
But eventually, you made it back, and she hung out with the both of us for like half an hour.
Yeah. And there are
She was having
waves.
she was having a blast.
Yeah, there are waves that would take her, carry her away. She'd come swimming back, carry her up the beach. would be like, oh my gosh. And then you just see her eyes above the water as she goes skirting down the beach back into the water. And she just kept right coming up to us. She brushed my leg with her tail. She did a full-on body check to your foot with her body.
Yeah. That was the darndest thing when I felt her body bounce off of my feet. It felt like our kitty, Love Bug, bouncing off my feet. Because our kitty bug, our kitty bug, our Love Bug is quite the wild child.
In a good way. So yeah, but she stayed a she. I believe it was a she, and I have photos. They're on Facebook now, or will be at least when this airs. She just spent a lot of time with us and kept coming back and kept coming back. And I mean, the waves would carry this little thing far away, and she would come swimming right back to us.
Yeah, and finally, the only reason she left was probably because we were like, okay, I think we need to get you back so you can prepare for an interview. And a dog had come bounding through, and then that was.
So let's talk about a few other ways that you've been raising your vibration. In fact, you say it's been your mission to be more present and available and make space. What's that mean?
Okay, well, so I didn't succeed with that last week.
Oh, no.
When I was getting up at 3, I had, I still am getting up at 3. But what I had done was I had blocked out every single half hour to hour increment of my entire day. And it was kind of like a pendulum swing from the total sleepy, brain foggy, when I was not well, I was just floating through each day. I was barely present, and I had no schedule. I'd wake up whenever, I'd go to sleep whenever, I'd maybe get some work whenever I felt like I could sit up and focus long enough. And so this last week was the total opposite of that. It was as rigid. Okay, it wasn't down to the minute or anything, but it was a pretty rigid schedule, and I was sticking to that. And what I discovered was I was not scheduling any time to just be. Mm-hmm. And even though I was doing my meditation, and sometimes 2 meditations in a day, if I was able to really adhere to the schedule, my meditations had objectives. So I wasn't just sitting in those meditations. I was either actively raising my vibration or actively manifesting. And so even that was doing. And I realized how easy it is to fall back into the old programming that says every moment must be productive. Why? Why does every moment have to be productive?
Well, if you're asking me, I'm going to defer to Dr. Srini Pillai, who we had on the show, author of Tinker, Dabble, Doodle, Try last week, who was talking about the power and importance of stepping back. He calls it the power of the unfocused mind, of just being, and how important, if you want to be a highly functioning human being or spiritual being in a human body, you need the time for the off switch so that you bring more to the on. Yeah.
And I want to be present for you and present for our kitties and present for our children. And I'm I realize that the schedule is temporary, that once there's a baby in the picture, who knows, all bets are off. I don't want to, I know most mothers would say you're going to be sleep deprived, you're going to be exhausted all day. Maybe, but I've also heard some mothers talk about how their second or third child, your cousin, in fact, mm-hmm. her third child, or her third child, slept straight through the night as an infant, and they didn't worry about waking him up to feed him. He was totally fine. He's a totally healthy, 6 or 7 year old now. But he wasn't your stereotypical crying in the middle of the night baby that needed this or that. So I like to always remember their experience and say that is also possible.
And you would also put that in as your request or something better to the universe.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with also what happens while the baby is in the womb and at birth. That has from what I'm reading, that has a huge effect on the behavior of the baby after it's born.
That
So
makes sense.
I think your cousins were super relaxed by the time the third baby came around, and they ended up having a super relaxed baby.
That makes sense.
But I don't want to say like if you have a challenging baby that it's your fault, because they bring in stuff from their past lives too, and yeah, it's
It's complicated.
it's what they signed up for, what you signed up for, and everybody has lessons to learn together. So yeah, I definitely don't look down on parents who have difficult babies or difficult children.
So let's go from there. Let's talk more about these energy raising practices. You say that every day you write down what's most important to you now.
Well, I had done that in the past. So I'll write down what's the one most important thing to me today. And oftentimes it's to be present for you or for the kiddies. And I do that because, well, you guys are the most important to me in my immediate environment, my life. So that just makes sense, right? But also it's practice for when we have children. And I know I keep bringing it back to children. You're like trying to make the show friendly to everybody, even people who don't have children. But I want to practice being present for my kids. Mm-hmm. I know how hard that is, especially with all the distractions we have today. The other thing this is an exercise that my guides gave me during automatic writing, and they said, just as your womb is the outer body for your baby, mm-hmm. practice thinking of your surroundings as your outer womb.
Wow.
So anybody who's coming into your outer womb, you're also having the same effect on. They may not be conscious of it, but they're experiencing your thoughts and emotions, just as if you had a baby in your womb. So I can't practice, thinking of there being a baby in the womb. I mean, I guess I could pretend, but it's just easier to think of my outer womb, and you're my outer womb.
Are we womb mates? Oh, no.
I know, that sounds so funny. No one's going to want to hang out with me. They're going to be like, that lady's crazy. She said I walked into her womb.
But it was her outer womb.
And she wanted to coddle me and stuff. I just met her.
But there is something we talk about often about everything being sacred, and I'm thinking about the home that we're staying in, which is interesting, and maybe we'll share this and maybe we won't. But we're renting a home right now till we see if we absolutely fall in love with this place, and they're doing house showings on this house because it's on the market, and we have to keep the house to a very high level of preparedness, because literally any minute, and I do mean that literally, there could be a home showing. We're laughing.
I'm checking the clock.
Because it is actually quite literal. But there is something about keeping that sacred space and the energy of keeping everything around us at a high level of beauty or preparedness or readiness that shifts that outer energy, that I guess what you're saying is it shifts our inner energy as well.
Yeah. So one of the things I did too, which is so uncharacteristic of me, because we have a pretty tight budget. We have, we have debts to pay off from when you got injured and I was not well, and debt that you get from when you're starting a new business.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some people who do some work for us that we get to pay for, and there's just a lot of expenses. And so I've always been very careful about how I spend our money, and I rarely. Well, okay, you have a comment about this.
No, I'm just, I'm here like a little squirrel in a chair wanting to go, the pillows, the pillows.
I know, because you kept telling me I was crazy, and I'm like, no, I'm not crazy. You don't understand. Like, I have this just like urge from
nesting
within me.
urge. Okay, tell us about the pillows.
I guess
and what
it's like the squirrels running around outside, and they're like gathering all this this random like bedding material. Well, I'm gathering pillows.
But not just any pillows. These are our favorite colors: turquoise and brilliant, shine bright yellow.
Okay, see, I've really included you in this process because I'm like, I want us to harmonize with the house, or the house to harmonize with us. So I'm going to buy pillows that match Michael. And literally, if you're watching YouTube right now, the pillows are the exact color of his turquoise shirt or sky blue, I don't know, and bright yellow glasses. And they've got fish on them. They're fun. They're fun to me. And they've even got sequins. And of course, in the back of my mind, I'm like, sequins, like bright, and some of them are like cream colored. I don't know if these are going to last very long once there's a baby, but whatever. I'm in the present. And the pillows are in the same space that I work in. And every time I look in that direction, I see the pretty pillows, and it makes me feel happy. And they're not like an extravagant purchase, but they're not part of the bare necessities. And I guess that's what I'm getting at. I rarely purchase things that don't fall under the category of bare necessity. And so now I'm going a little past my comfort zone, and I'm doing whatever I think is reasonable to raise my vibration, and surrounding myself by beauty. If I'm inside, I mean, there's tons of beauty outside. If I'm inside, surrounding myself with beauty is really important to me right now.
Something tells me more plants are in order coming up.
Yeah. I thought of this, but plants are a little more difficult to move than pillows.
It's a good point. But it comes back to a philosophy that I've been sharing for quite a while now, and you're acting upon it, which is everything around us, I want it to be art. I want it to be beautiful. I want to sculpt a life, sculpt the most beauty of a lifetime that we possibly can, whatever that looks like. It doesn't mean that you have to spend extravagantly, but just say, is this something that's just functional, or can it somehow be more important, more, for lack of another term, beautiful in my life? Because I think the more beauty that you bring in, just what you're talking about here, it's really raising your vibration.
Yeah, it's affecting you on a subconscious level or conscious level.
Mm-hmm. So because we literally may have people coming to see the house any minute now, but they will hold off until this interview finishes, what does spoon-feeding Lumi have to do with anything?
Um, so Lumi spent the most time in the wild
So
as
who is
a
Lumi for people who don't know?
oh Lumi. Lumi is our I was gonna say semi-wild kitty, but he's pretty domesticated now. Um, he's a kitty cat that we rescued when we were on Maui, and he'd been living in the wild for about 5 or 6 months before we rescued him. And we were at a retreat center, and we saw cat traps around, and we realized that they were trapping the cats to take him to the Humane Society. And he had his ear clipped, and he was also is a dark gray, almost black kitty. And this Humane Society was not a no-kill shelter, so my concern was that um, he wouldn't get adopted. So we caught him before the Humane Society, and we brought him home. And he had been interacting with us
Oh,
quite a bit.
there was one day where we didn't see him, and you said, "Well, Michael, why don't you just call for him?"
Yeah, and I don't think I even said that because we were at this retreat center, and I didn't want to make a whole lot of noise and disturb the guests there. But you started meowing at like the top of your lungs. And then a few moments later, he came bounding across this big lawn. I don't even know where he came from or how he knew it was you calling him. Um, yeah, so he thought of us as friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyway, he has some insecurities that we're still working through, and one of them is that when he eats, he's afraid that he's going to get pounced by another animal or another cat because that's what happened to him in the wild. And I actually witnessed this, and I think it was even like his sister that was threatening to pounce him while he was eating some food I brought him. And so it's hard for him to get enough food. At least, in all honesty, I'm sure if I left and he got hungry, he'd eat. He'd find a way to eat. But I end up spoon feeding him because one, I'm very present with him when I'm spoon feeding. It's all about Lumi. And and two, he feels safe when I'm by his side.
I think there's a training, and this is what you're talking with me about, in being that present with him to spoon feed him that is going to serve you well. And it's that amount of presence, because I will bring it back to everybody, and it's something that I was talking about with Tim Sanders, who has a beautiful book on Love as a Killer App, and we just interviewed him. That amount of presence, training the mind to be that present with someone or something, I think is incredibly special.
Yeah.
So any last things you want to share with people about raising your vibration, raising your frequency, or things that you're tinkering with this week yourself?
Well, it was interesting this morning before we were going to record the show, and we ended up postponing it not because I had a meltdown, because if you've been listening, I used to melt down before every single show recording. But I
So
think
Michael
those
still has emotional wounds.
those days might be behind us, Michael. But we ended up postponing because you had the opportunity to get your foot worked on by this amazing magical chiropractor. I mean, he studied as a chiropractor, but I totally don't think of him as a chiropractor.
Kinesiologist and much more, yeah.
Yeah. But before we were going to record the show, I wanted to raise our vibrations. And I realized that we've really not tapped into, we've really not taken advantage of our ability to work together to raise our vibrations.
Tell me more.
I mean, we'll woohoo together. We'll do like 10 woohoos before we record a show or something like that, right?
What are some ways that we can raise our vibration together?
I think each couple or each family gets to figure out what's going to work for each other. And I know what works for you. And I know that, if I stick my hands in my fingers in your armpits,
Can't believe you're going there.
you start honking. And you start basically laughing uncontrollably. And actually, I don't even need to stick my fingers in there. All I need to do is like gesture or like, I bet if I just think about it, you'll start laughing uncontrollably. Like right now, your eyes are closed. You're like, I want to look.
I'm trying to hold it together and not.
Anyway, so.
Thank you.
So we get to do more of that. It's such an easy tool. And it's not this like, it doesn't have to be this woo-woo spiritual thing. It can be really simple.
Well, that
it's like tickling somebody.
That laughter therapy came out after that second near-death experience. You were doing that a lot. Well, this honking laugh came out of me, and you were doing that a lot to raise my vibration, which helped with healing.
Yeah.
So
and I'm discovering some new things that I can do with you.
Which we may or may not ever discuss on the show. Pushing the boundaries, Jessica Lee. Any last words of wisdom you want to share with people?
Yeah, I'm a little distracted because Love Bug is like a little heater on my lap, and I am sweating up a storm. And I also, because the chair is so high up, if I put my feet down, then my legs dip down an angle, and then Love Bug would slide off. So I've been like perched on my tippy toes, keeping my legs flat for her.
Is that good for posture?
Well, I'm a little crumpled because if I sit up straight, then my belly pushes into her head. And so I just want to explain why I'm like sitting like off kilter like this, because I've got my feet perched on one of the chair legs.
Gotcha.
And I'm crumpled because I don't want to smush my kitty with my belly.
All right. So last thing that I've got, as I'm trying to milk these last words of wisdom out of you, how about one homework assignment you want to give people this week?
Start a miracle journal. It's not that hard. I just write 5 things every morning. You could do 3. I mean, there are other things that I journal about, but just start there. Start easy.
I like it. All right. For everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler and
Jessica Lee and Love Bug
saying, be well, have fun, start that miracle journal, begin raising your vibrations high and those of everyone in the womb around you. I can't believe I said that. And shine bright.
Woohoo!
No fair. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!